Okay, so we are here for this is our informational webinar about the Foundations of Reading test, and today is November 3rd, 2025. So hopefully this continues to be timely for all of you. This is as up to date as we could possibly be right now. My name is Emily Muccianti, and I'm going to kind of guide you through the exam, what it takes, some tips and strategies and things to kind of help you get rolling with this. So what we're going to cover in the webinar first is I want to introduce you to me, a little bit about my experience. Who do we actually help? What is the content of the FORT 890 exam? It's actually 890 and 190. And so that is for all 17 of those states that are offering the Foundations of Reading exam. We'll talk about the sub-area competencies, the different specifications, and then my course, how Fort Prep 101 might be able to help you. So a little bit about me. My name is Emily Muccianti. I am a reading specialist. I am a 30+ year veteran educator. I spent 27 years in the classroom. And about the last 8 years or so, I've really worked a lot working with new teachers, supporting new teachers as they prepared for their RICA exam, which is the Reading Instruction Competency Assessment. And now that California is moving away from the RICA and into the Foundations of Reading exam, I've created a new course to hopefully help you and guide you through that one. We've had a lot of success with the RICA course, and so I know this is going to be even better for you. So funny story, I've been supporting teachers in these competency exams out of my classroom. This is where I started. I used to host workshops on Saturdays once a month in my classroom, and I would have teachers from our universities that were near me come in and learn about how to prep for this exam and learn about reading instruction. And it was just a great thrill right when COVID hit. It was, the technology was finally there to be able to bring it all online. And now the Foundations of Reading test, this new course, is the revamping of all of what I've done all of those years. But as a reading specialist, I have lived and breathed this content for, 20+ years. And so I know it like the back of my hand. It is my passion. It's something that I love to do. You can see these are some of the pictures from my reading lab where I'm training different teachers with my students, some of our materials and curriculum, and doing some assessment, some data assessment, crunching and analytics of our numbers so that we can figure out how to really serve those kids well. Now, so Fort Prep 101 is my new course, and this is really designed to help those new and aspiring teachers in one of the 17 states that require the RICA exam. So those are Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California now, which is one of the newest ones, Connecticut, Iowa, Kansas, Maryland, Mississippi, New Hampshire, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Rhode Island, South Carolina, Utah, and Wisconsin. And so I create a course taking really difficult and challenging content that is very dry. It's like learning a new foreign language for those without the experience in literacy and reading. And I make it in such a way that we really funnel it down to what do you need to know? What is going to make you a better teacher? How do you apply this into your classroom? And then how do you prep for and pass this exam? So all of this exam covers what we call the science of reading content. This is moving away from that old balanced literacy type of approach and really into structured literacy. So there's a great deal of knowledge that has to be known about phonemic awareness, phonics instruction, that sort of thing, which I'll talk to you a little bit about. And so I also work to help those of you who are looking for a professional development experience so that you can take what you're learning with this competency exam, which is a requirement, and actually apply it, because the content is really good and it's really necessary in order to help teach our students how to read. And that's why I do it. I want to make sure that I can give you what you need to be an amazing reading teacher for your students. So the foundations of reading test, there are two numbers that you might hear associated with it, and these are just the course or the test exam numbers. One is the 190 version and one is the 890 version. The 890 is the more revamped one, but the content is very, very, very similar. And so when you go to register, you'll see one of those numbers with it. Again, 17 states do require this exam, and California is one of the new ones. So this is for those that are seeking a multiple subject elementary credential or a special education or ed specialist credential. And some of those requirements vary by state by state. Now, the focus is on the science of reading and structured literacy. So a great deal of information needs to be known about phonics, phonemic awareness, the alphabetic principle, things like that. And what this exam does is it's intended to measure your foundational knowledge for effective reading instruction. And as you know, you've probably heard in the news what they call the nation's report card, which is the NAEP scores. And our test scores nationally coming from our public school systems is really, really poor. And we know that there's a lot of challenges in the home. There's a lot of challenges with things outside of teachers' control. But one thing that we can do is make sure that we're applying really good explicit instruction while we do have those kids. And that's why more and more states are requiring some sort of a competency exam. And the Foundations of Reading test is the most popular one to do that. So this, for those of you that are in California, the structure of this is similar to the RICA from a content perspective. So the content is very, very similar. There's some similarities in how it is rolled out, but it is intended to be more streamlined and more targeted regarding those structured literacy components. So those of you that are seeking credentials that may have this as a requirement would be if you were a single subject credential and you wanted to add or come down into the elementary school and be a multiple subject credential holder, you would need to pass this exam. Private school teachers that are looking to get a multiple subject or an early childhood credential or even a special education credential are usually required to take this exam. If you were a teacher outside of the country and you were prepared in another country and you wanted to teach in the United States, this is probably one of the requirements for you. If you hold a preliminary credential from California with a RICA renewal code, so if there was a RICA renewal code and you did not meet that requirement, actually by October 31st, then you would be required to take the Foundations of Reading test. And so there are a lot of various reasons why you may be required to take this exam. When in doubt, always check with either your county office of education or your university program or credential analyst to make sure that you're getting the information about what it is that you need to take. So the structure of the FORT exam is this exam is taken in one sitting, where the RICA was in 3 separate subtests and you could take them separately. That is not the case for this exam. The Foundations of Reading test requires 100 multiple choice questions and 2 constructed responses. There is no case study. This is like a short and a mid-sized written response to get those constructed response requirements. It is given in 4 hours, plus there's a 15-minute tutorial about how to use the program in order to write those responses out and things like that. The passing scores are going to vary by state. Now, in California right now, the passing score for the FORT is 224, and that's because this is a new exam and they want to give some leeway for kind of figuring it out. In most other states, The passing requirement is 240. Now, you can always go to the National Evaluation System website where it will show you state by state. You can click into your specific state in order to see what your requirements are. Just like the RICA, the scoring breakdown is the same. Multiple choice counts for 80% of your passing score. So the bulk of your score will come from those multiple choice questions, which means you have to know a lot of content. You have to know it really well, because you can pass this exam with a really strong multiple choice score and a very weak constructed response score. So the constructed response scores only count for 20%. And since this is one exam, you take it one time, the cost of this is $139 to the National Evaluation System. Now, whatever state you're in, there will be a link for example, if you were in California and you go to the CTC website and you look at the exams and it will say Foundations of Reading, I'm happy to show you how to do that. It will link you to the National Evaluation System where you will see some of this information about the exam. So there are, the exam is made up of what is called sub areas, and there are 4 sub areas, and each sub area counts for a different percentage of your exam. So the Foundations of Reading Development, which is really about the phonemic awareness, phonological awareness, alphabetic principle, phonics, word decoding, all of that is really going to be about 35% of your test. So the bulk of your exam is going to come from that sub area number 1. Sub area number 2 is really about the development of reading comprehension. There is some talk in there as well about writing, and that will also compose about 27% of your questions for this exam. And then the third sub area is reading assessment and instruction. So you have to know how to plan and manage your reading instruction. You have to know how to give and analyze assessment data in order to plan for that instruction. That is 18% of your score. So if we were talking about this and comparing it for those of you in California for the RICA, your sub area 1 of the fort is basically your domain 2. And 3. Your sub area 2 of the fort is like domains 4 and 5. And your sub area 3 is like domain 1. So a lot of that content, if you've been prepping for the RICA, is going to still be applicable to you. So if you have some of those study materials, that will still work for you. Now, sub area 4 is where they put the written responses. And you're going to have 2 written responses. One will cover sub area 1, one will cover sub area 2, and each of those counts for 10% of your score. So all of that is the breakdown for all of these questions. Now, what I want to do though is show you more about each specific sub area so you kind of get an idea of what it is that you have to cover. But first, I want to talk to you about reading as from a broad standpoint. One of the challenges for those that are taking an exam about something that is brand new to you, right? This is brand new content. You're a brand new teacher. You don't have this knowledge very readily available yet. And one of the biggest mistakes I see new teachers make when they go to prep for an exam like this is they dive into the competencies or the sub areas, looking at them as individual points or silos, if you will, without considering how all of this works together. So one thing that my course has done, the Fort and the RICA, is I always start with how does reading develop? Because you have to have a really broad understanding of how reading works developmentally in the brain in order to get our students to that point of being good comprehenders. And so we start with the simple view of reading. And this simple view of reading tells us that word recognition times language comprehension equals reading comprehension. So, and I go into a great deal of this, but I want to give you just a taste of it now. What that means is that we have to look at reading comprehension as a product. Too often, teachers are not sure about comprehension, and they look at it as an isolated skill. Reading comprehension is not a single isolated skill. It cannot be taught in one single way. It is a product of all of these other pieces. And those big pieces are the word recognition side of this formula, which is basically how do we get kids to read the words on the page? How do we get them to decode? They have to be able to look at a word and know what it says. And so those skills are involving phonemic awareness, phonics, and fluency. And this is a really big part of the Foundations of Reading test. The other component of this, and the Fort does this, I think they bring more emphasis to this than the RICA did, is they talk a lot about language comprehension, which is really important. This is the ability to actually know what those words that you read mean, okay? So not just how to say them, how to decode them and spell them, but now what do they mean? And how do I put them together for meaning? And so that involves vocabulary, language concepts, and communication. And when all of this works together, then the product, when all goes well, is reading comprehension. Now, reading comprehension can be strengthened in a number of ways with a number of strategies and things that we get into very deeply. But we have to first have this understanding of reading development before we can tackle any of these single aspects, because it just won't make as much sense. Inside the course, we also dive into Scarborough's reading rope, and this takes that same concept of the simple view of reading, but it gives it more finer sub-skill points. So we're looking at that word recognition, we're looking at that language comprehension, and each of these little strands represents a single skill. And with the goal being that as kids grow and develop and practice, they become more strategic and more automatic. And then by the end, they should be able to be skilled readers and skilled comprehenders. And when this doesn't work out to be this way, this is where we get into that sub area 3, which is all about assessment to figure out where is the problem. Where is the problem? We have to be able to find the right tool in order to know, is the student struggling with sight words? Are they struggling with phonological awareness? Are they struggling with background knowledge? We have to have the right tools to do that. And so we spend a lot of time there in the course so that you understand how all of this works together. And again, the purpose of that is before you can figure out, let's say how, you're going in, you're a mechanic and you're trying to figure out what's broken in the engine, you first have to have the main understanding of how an engine actually runs. And that's really the same kind of thing here. So for the first sub area, this is where the heavy emphasis is. So we're talking about learning things related to phonological and phonemic awareness. What are the differences between those? Because those are very intimidating and they sound very similar. What are concepts of print, the alphabetic principle? How do those impact reading development? How do we teach phonics and word analysis and decoding? And then the Fort brings in a strong piece related to the relationship between oral language and written language. So there is also a big spelling component with this exam also. And just to remind you, sub area number 1, this is where the bulk of your test content comes from. It comes from this area here. Sub-area number 2 is all about reading comprehension, and we get more specifically into vocabulary development. How do we support vocabulary development? What comprehension strategies can we use for both literary and informational text? How do we help our students develop academic language? And then the component that is also added here, and I would make note of this, is we really have to know how to support our multilingual learners and our diverse learners, because these are our students. This is one of the biggest areas they start to have some serious discrepancies with, especially our English language learners. So we want to have a strong, firm foundation in that. Sub-area 3 is all about assessment and instruction. And so we talk about the various types of assessment, beginning with both formal and informal reading assessment. We look at how do you use and analyze data to guide your instruction. I know it feels like we give tests to kids all the time, but the tests are only really valuable to us if we can use them to impact and guide our instruction. And so that's what we talk about here. This is about differentiation and scaffolding, and what is the difference between those two? How do we support all of those students? And then finally, there is an aspect of working with our students that have reading difficulties, our struggling readers, our students with IEPs or 504s that may need some additional supports. Sub-area 4 is the breakdown of those two constructed responses. So there are 2 writing tasks. What you do is you have to analyze either student data or a teaching scenario. You then apply your knowledge of reading instruction and you focus on the practical application of the question, not just the theory. So this is really proving that you've taken all of that content and foundation that you've learned about, but now you're able to apply it into an educational setting. And so the first one is going to have a similar prompt as this. It'll be prepare an organized, developed analysis on a topic related to the development of foundational reading skills. So again, that'll go back to sub-area 1. And then the second one would be preparing an organized, developed analysis on a topic related to the development of reading comprehension. So that could be anything with vocabulary, diverse learners, or specific reading comprehension. These 2 constructed responses are required to be between 150 to 300 words. So you'll be given something to either analyze, you'll be given a piece of data to look at, or a teaching scenario, and you'll have to address the prompt based on that. Any questions so far about the content? Okay. And you're welcome to drop it in the chat also. If there's a question that comes up, I'm happy to stop and check that. So let's talk a little bit about some of the logistics. When you register for this exam, you actually register through the National Evaluation Series or system, and that is linked in your state website. So in California, it's linked through the CDC website. This exam is offered year-round. It is available at testing centers and online home proctoring. I will give you a caution if you home proctor. The pros and cons to this. It can be really helpful, but it can also be a little bit stressful. Really pay attention if where you're testing at your home is going to work for you. I've heard horror stories about people like somebody knocked on the door, I turned my head and they shut me out. I mean, really kind of weird things like that. So just, and I'm happy to answer any questions about that at the end, but it is something you want to really consider that it's going to be right for you. The cost may vary by state, but I think the $139 is a pretty good ballpark for you. There is a retake policy, just like with any exam. It's usually a 45-day wait period. I think there's one state that has like a 35 or a 40-day wait period. The reason for the wait period, what this means is if you go in and you test and you don't pass, you have to wait 45 days to take it again from the date of your test. And the reason for that is that they have to change the version. So they will change the version so that you don't go in and get the exact same exam. That's what that's about. So that means that, you know, if you were to take it every month, you'd only really be able to take it probably 8 times in a year if you had to do that. I'm not saying that that's going to happen to you, God forbid. But you really do want to be prepared. My recommendation is always make sure you're ready for the exam so you take this one time only. As of right now, it has, I believe, a pass rate nationally of about 60% as a first-time pass rate. So the pass rate is a little bit harder or lower than what the RICA was. And so it really, you don't want to go in and waste your money and just see what it's like. Get prepared, go in, take it one time and be done with it. There are also alternative testing arrangements where you can apply to receive additional time, or there might be some other accommodations that are there. So for some of the ones that I know have qualified before, if you have a documented learning disability like dyslexia, if there are health conditions that require you to take frequent breaks, if English is not your primary language, and if you have something like attention deficit disorder or anxiety, those things may qualify you to receive additional time. There may be some other accommodations that you'll have to just see based on what your particular situation is. Now, on the website, you can pick up their practice test. They have one in there that is a paid practice test, which I don't think you need that one. There's a really good free one that's also there. So that is available for you to look at. Now, I do want to talk to you a little bit about my course. And so my first course was RICA Prep 101. So I stayed with the Prep 101 theme, and this is Fort Prep 101. And what this is, like I said, I've been working a long time with teachers and prepping for these exams. But more importantly than that is I'm an expert in this field. Reading, instruction is my area of expertise. And so I'm able to bring all of that to you and really teach the content to you in a way that is applicable. If you've started studying and you've read any test prep books, they're very dry, they're very hard to get through, and it's not very interactive. And so I created a course that's fully asynchronous. It covers all 4 sub areas. I have created video lessons for everything. They're all very interactive. There are study planners, guides, handouts, practice tests that I give you at the end of each module. There is constructed response coaching. So if you are not comfortable with your writing and you want to become a VIP member so that I actually critique your writing and kind of help you dial that in, that's an option for you. This is really, the course is created to be supportive. It's visual, it's teacher friendly. I don't just tell you what you need to study. I actually teach it to you. I teach it to you so that you could go in the next day and apply this in your actual classroom. There is a mobile app also for my course. So right down here, this is Kajabi. Kajabi is the name of my web host. It's where my course is housed. And you can actually download a mobile app and pick up the course on your phone, your tablet, your desktop, wherever you want. So, and it will sync through all of those. So that's available. This is what I like about that asynchronous component is it makes the content available to you at any time. So when I was in grad school, my children were toddlers. And this was before the digital platforms were even available. And I had to get up every morning at about 4 a.m. to do my homework, to study, to get ready, because I had little ones running around. So this digital access allows you to go in and study when it's convenient for you and your family. And when you join my course, you become a member, and that membership gives you access for 1 full year. And there are a couple of different options for you price-wise, which I'll talk about in a moment, to see what works for you. So this is what the homepage looks like when you first come in, and when we end the recording, I'm actually going to take you inside of it. But I wanted to share this with you. This is from one of my live workshops. This picture here there's Jessica, of all of my RICA, some of my RICA students. We always do a screenshot, and I just love this picture so much because I worked live with so many people over the years, and I wanted to honor them a little bit and thank them. And I just great group of educators. But I will take you to this and show you what this looks like after we end. So a couple of things though about the course. The course is done and ready to go. We still have kind of a small following. So as with the RICA, I had hundreds and hundreds of members. And so I was able to offer live workshops, and people would come in and, we'd get anywhere from, 40 to 80 people that would come in live on a Saturday. Those virtual live workshops were awesome. And so when we get more of a presence in the course, it's something that I'd like to bring back and do some boot camps. That is where I'm presenting the content just like this to you now. And we get to interact and all of those fun things. So that is coming. The audio podcast is also coming. And this is for it. I take the audio content and I make it available in a podcast form. So you're just listening to it. It's available on the mobile app, and then you can go in and listen to it in your car, when you're on the treadmill, whatever it may be. And this one I'm super excited because we are just days away from this. So professional development units are going to be offered through UMass Global. I've been working with them the end of the summer, and we are finalizing that component so that you can actually earn units while you prepare. And if you're not sure why that's so important, teachers who have more units make more money, and it moves you up on your salary schedule. And so anytime you are doing anything professionally and you're able to earn a unit, my mentor recommendation to you is you take those units until you're maxed out, because that is going to help you move up that salary schedule. And again, we're just days away from this. So I want you to know, first of all, that preparing for this exam is more than just prepping for a test. Teaching a student to read is the single most important thing that you are going to do in your professional career. It is such a heavy weight for us to bear, quite honestly, because when a kid knows how to read, their future opens up. And when a student doesn't know how to read, then there are a lot of adverse effects and consequences that go with that. We get higher crime, we get poverty, we get incarceration, drug abuse. All of these things can directly be linked to illiteracy. And so I always like to kind of help you realize that when you're a new teacher, I know you've got a lot of hurdles to jump through, and that can be really frustrating. But I want you to keep in perspective that teaching a kid to read is so important. And it's a gift that if you know how to do it well, you are going to be that kind of teacher that you've always wanted. You are going to make the impact that you've always wanted, which is why you're in education in the first place. You want to be that teacher that those kids will never forget. And I don't know if you know this, but we get about a 50% teacher turnover rate in the first 5 years. So almost half of the new teachers in the first 5 years leave the profession. And think about all the time and energy you've put into this. That's really daunting. And a lot of that is because they don't have the tools they need to do the job that is required, which is teaching well. And so by going through this course, I'm able to help you learn how to do that and hopefully take that one piece and really give you some strength there. So this is more than test prep. This is professional development. I get a lot of schools that actually pay for their new teachers to go through my course because it is professional development. So that is an option for you to look at also. I've had people go through Donors Choose. You can get professional development donations to cover your cost as well. But this is grounded in structured literacy and the science of reading. It's about real classroom realities, not just theory. It's about instructional practices that are actually going to help your students learn and that you are going to use and apply in this exam. So you're going to walk away with more than a passing score. You're going to walk away with the foundation that you need to be a really amazing literacy teacher. So I always like to say, you know, who is this class, this course for? And so I wanted to turn it and think about who would work best with me, who is my ideal student, because I created this course for my ideal students, right? And so my ideal students, the teachers that invest in their professional development, that come and work with me, are those teachers that they're looking to make a difference in their career. They're looking to learn how to teach reading and not just study for a test. So you might be that ideal person if you are committed to being an impactful teacher, if you're passionate about literacy and student success, if you're coachable and open to learning, if you're willing to put in the work so that you have some long-term success. I tell you what to do, but I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. It's the people that put the work in that actually really make it and get some success with it. If you're ready to move from confusion to clarity, and if you're looking to gain knowledge and support to create with a mentor and a guide, that kind of thing, then, and not just looking for information, then it might be right for you. So this course was built for the teacher you are becoming, not the test that you have to take right now. It is deeper than that. And when you focus on becoming that great teacher, you will pass this test because you're going to be engaged with the content. You're going to learn it. You're going to be inspired by it. And that will get you to pass the test. So when I did, and I'm not going to read all these, so you're welcome to read them while I'm just kind of talking to you a little bit. But I would encourage you to go to Google and search RICA Prep 101. We have over now 220 Google reviews with a 5-star rating. And these are comments from my past students with the RICA that will tell you a little bit about their experience. We have a really great pass rate with the RICA exam. And so I know we're going to get that same momentum with the Foundations of Reading exam. But this is about connecting with me. This is about learning from me, having a mentor, and really developing those skills. But go in there and see what they say, because I think that that's going to be pretty impactful for you. Okay, so let's talk about, what does this look like? What is the investment? So I have 3 membership options right now with the Fort Prep 101. The first one is the standard membership. And a standard membership gives you all of the digital content for 1 year. This is best for a self-paced learner. You want full access. You want to maybe reach out to me via email and kind of check in here and there. You might have a question. That's all fine. It includes all of the video lessons, guides, templates, planners. I give you the constructed response tips and sample responses. It does not include one-on-one feedback from me. There is email support, again, 12 months This is a one-time payment. So it's a $147 for the year. That works out to be about $12 a month, and you have it for the year. If you needed to renew it, you would have a discount as a returning member for the next year. The VIP membership is $187, and this works out to $15 a month. It's a one-time fee of $187. It is best for the teacher who wants that expert feedback. You want to really connect with me more because I'm going to be more at your service. I'm going to be reading your writing. We're going to be talking more frequently. And so it's going to help you with that. This is also the membership that will allow you to earn the professional development unit, because I have to verify your writing. And so there will be a certificate of completion with this one that you will be able to then earn that professional development unit, which again is coming up, like I said, like days. I'm days away from it. And then the final option is a monthly plan. So this is a 3-month commitment, but maybe you like the idea of a smaller per month payment. This is $47 a month. It's a 3-month minimum commitment required. It's basically like the standard membership, but you're paying it in installments. Okay, so that's what that is. And I always like to give you a thank you when you join me live. So if you are interested in joining my course, I want to offer you a 10% off coupon. That is for the yearly memberships. It's not going to apply to the monthly, but it will be for this one, the standard and the VIP. That if by Thursday, if you enroll and join the course by Thursday and you use the coupon code FORTNEWBIE113, so that's the date, FORTNEWBIE113, by Thursday, you will reduce these two plans by 10%. So that would be about $15 off of this one and about $19 off of this one. Any questions about any of that first? And again, I'll take questions when we're done too. So here are the next steps. First of all, make sure that you're following me. I'm on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. So get in there. I've got a couple of YouTube channels, a couple of Instagram channels, because my business serves two audiences. One is my new teachers who are prepping for the foundations of reading. But my other audience that I support is I work with reading intervention teachers, schools, districts, and administrators, and I coach and consult them. So I have two channels in Instagram and YouTube, but you're welcome to go to both. They're all reading related. One is, I think, Fort Prep 101 with Emily, and the other one is just Emily Muccianti. But I would suggest, if you are interested, that you join the course as soon as you can. As soon as you are ready, you will have access immediately. It's all password protected. Again, when I turn off the recording, I'm going to go ahead and take you behind the scenes. I'll show you all of that. But you visit emilymuccianti.com, you go to courses, it's going to take you right there. And if you were a RICA member, if you have an active RICA Prep 101 membership, you've actually already been given access to this course. And so I'll talk to those of you that are here. And if not, then it goes into this new website. Do you need to buy materials with your course? No, you do not need to. That's a great question. There are some free readings that I suggest you give. There's a lot of materials, some practice exams that you can use online. There are also state specific prep books. The content is all the same. It's kind of silly why they do it by state, but they do. And so you can check out on Amazon some of those for additional, if you want a printed version, you could do that. But I have a workbook that's in there as well to kind of help guide you. That's a good question, Marion. Is the RICA harder or the Fort? I don't know the answer to that yet. I don't have enough feedback yet from the fort. I heard from somebody this week who told me he took it. He felt very well prepared. He said that my course helped him prepare beautifully. We don't have results back yet, so I don't know. My guess is, because if it were me, right now in California, the RICA pass rate, they dropped it, right, to like what, 190? I can't remember what it was, 180, 181, something like that. Because the pass rate was lowered in the RICA and because you could take it in 3 different sub tests, I would think that the RICA would be easier than the fort, because the fort's a 4-hour sitting, 100 questions, but I don't have the side by side from the questions, and I don't have enough feedback yet to give you. As soon as I know the answer to that, I will happily share it. But so when you take it, let me know if you've taken them both. Okay. So are there any questions? Those were any additional questions about that? Please write down my email, readingdiva06@gmail.com. I am going to send this recording out tomorrow for those of you that registered for the webinar so that you have access to it. That'll give you some of that additional information. And then if you would like to stick around and see my course, I'm going to do that next. But I want to thank you so much for being here. I know it's not easy to carve out time in your busy days, but thank you for being here and hearing this information. I hope it helps give you some guidance. And you're not alone. You don't have to do this alone. Like I said, I've been taking these exams longer than anybody, so there's a lot of information there that I really hope sharing will be helpful to you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop that recording.